Hey guys, Tightrope here, bringing you a 1v1 today. We're on Djebel Pass. Playing for today's spawning on the top side, we've got Across the Pacific with the British forces gone for Australian defence. Bringing in some Aussies straight away. Down the bottom side is pedestraim with Wehrmacht, who's got a terror, mechanized, and breakthrough. This is a Patreon backer submitted game. In terms of rankings, Across the Pacific 462 up against pedestraim 216. So Across the Pacific taking a little bit of time there to set up some sandbags and wire, slowing down the capture a little bit. Generally, you want to capture first, then set up afterwards, just so you have the resources flowing while you're constructing. So, and I generally think on a point like this, not really worth putting down sandbags and wire. Not really worth like the slowdown on your capture, because it takes so long to decapture a high point. Very hard to harass these that are right outside your base. Kind of similar with Toronto coastline with that high munitions right outside your base. It's so hard to harass those.
Infantry closing on us.
So yeah, I wouldn't. This one makes sense because this does get harassed quite a lot. Putting up some cover there can be quite handy, but on the high muni point is not as sensible.
A victory point is being overrun.
Jerry. He's none too pleased.
So Australians do generally give Grenadiers a bit of a beatdown early on, but Grenadiers had a nice cover position there. Australians probably could have won if they just charged in for the fight, but still not a terribly good engagement. So it's 3 Australians here for Across the Pacific. Might get a quite nice engagement here now. Australians able to get in close quarters, like squeezing through his gap, not taking too much damage. Jam the decapture. They dominate Grenadiers at this range. Pose doing a bit of a run by here, not going for the decap on the cutoff. Backing up. Grenadiers actually winning that one, a little bit surprising. Maybe pedestrian getting some good model drops.
Infantry closing on us. Position taken.
But generally, with these Australian starts, because you don't have to construct them. In this case, hasn't even put down his tech yet. Can generally out-capture the Wehrmacht player massively. It's really hard to keep up with. It hasn't really materialized so far for Across the Pacific, though. Should probably have been able to convert this kind of start into more map control. Generally want to be like leading the way with your Australians, then using the sappers to cap on the edges, bring them into the occasional fights if you can get them in close quarters without taking too much damage, like around blind corners, stuff like that. So we've got Luftwaffe Company, I think that is, coming up. And pedestrian putting up a bunker here. Looks like he's going to go for a mid bunker. Has gone for breakthrough as well. But I mean, this is a pretty weak opener. Only going for 2 units, 2 pies, 2 units from tier 1. This is where the Australians should be absolutely stomping the Wehrmacht player. Sometimes when I play Wehrmacht, I actually go for like 1 extra squad if I'm playing like coastals. Go for like 1 extra squad sometimes against Australians, just so I can actually hold on to some territory in the early game. And then I can just like trade them out. Convert them into Jaegers or whatever later on. Just to try, get some map control back. So these guys somehow left the capture circle here, not good. Charging in here, taking quite a lot of damage though. These other Grenadiers getting a couple of volleys off, so it's not working out too well right now. Going for the cutoff with the other Aussies. This is a situation where some of these engagements might be worth using the sharpshooter on the Aussies just to try swing the engagements a little bit further into your favor. Got plenty of munitions, definitely worth just popping off a sharpshooter. And remember, you do want to click on the correct model with that sharpshooter. It does target whatever you click on. So you want to target it on maybe a model that's a bit further back. So the one that's being currently shot at, so you don't overkill them massively. 221 hitting the field now for pedestrain. Maybe a little bit on the late side, can often get out about 30 seconds faster than this. And that means the Humber's on the field at the exact same timing. I have heard that the Panzerbuchse 221 has kind of fallen out of favor with the high-ranked pros ever since the change to its like phosphorus shot or blinding shot now it's called. Now it doesn't provide a slow as well, it just isn't as worthwhile going for. Which is understandable. I think, you know, one of the main problems with the Panzerbuchse 221 is its moving performance. It's just so bad. It misses all the time. And it's quite hard to maneuver it, you know, but such a limited cone of fire on it. But it does give the option to actually kill the Humber, which can be quite hard to achieve, just like tricks or an AT gun alone. It's so good at like zipping out of harm's way after the first shot. Kind of need something that can actually chase for the kill to polish it off. But we saw pedestrain go for Luftwaffe officers' quarters there.
We're losing a victory point to enemy
And then for
action.
another Jaeger.
We've lost the sector to the enemy.
Got the med bunker up and running.
Victory point belongs to the
So
enemy.
far, I'd say this is a little bit of a problem for Across the Pacific with these Australian starts. You need to convert into more map control than this in the early game. More capping power, much stronger combat units than your enemy in the early stages, especially considering pedestrian only went for 2 greens, 2 pies. Should have been a much stronger, like, first 5 minutes than this. But here we go. I'm getting a bit of a roll on. There is a Shrek mid-upgrade here, so it looks like Across the Pacific reluctant to chase past that squad. Go for the kill. They're just chipping away at them. Gotta make sure you stay out of Fausting range though. Humber hitting Vet 1. Shrek upgrades. I think that was a fine place for the Australians to retreat. They're very, very low on health. Can get plenty of value out of healing here. Did he have the option of trying to like pop the Humber's flare up and just try blast through with the extra damage provided from that, but not a huge problem. And this is a fine rotation from the Humber coming across to the other side of the map where pedestrian has no anti-tank. Can do a lot of damage over here. Now at this stage, as Across the Pacific, if you want to like blast away the Jaegers as quickly as possible, it's a good spot to go for infantry training right now. You can kind of fight fire with fire. You know, the Jaegers are coming in with the instant Vet 1, getting the bonuses from that. But then you get the infantry training on your Aussies and they fight back effectively. Also, loads of munitions for Across the Pacific. Should have the scope rifles upgraded now. Ever since they buffed up the movement performance on the scope rifles, there's really no reason not to go for them. Good use of the sharpshooter there. A little bit later retreat on this final Aussie though. Could get squad wiped. Humber's got to be careful, close to a Faust. Gets away with it. Now coming in maybe for the intercept, looking for the Shrek kill. Here he goes. Already so close to base. This is a bit of a risk, but it could pay off. It looks like he could squeeze through this building though, prevent the kill. Oh, gets it. That's a big play. Drop the Shrek though. The other Jaegers can pick that up. So it's not too bad for pedestrian in the end, but look at all this float on both players. Really need to spend some resources. I think pedestrian should have gone for a
On
flak.
the field.
A flak team weapon. 100%. Can really help with your like battles through the mid. Provides a little bit of extra anti-tank to help against the Humber. But speaking of the Humber, looks like it's going to take a Faust. No! Just skates out of there in time. That was a close call. Humber's one of the few vehicles that is like fast enough
Enemy rifle!
to dodge away from the Fausts reliably.
Infantry will be better prepared.
Pedestrian rebuilding the Shreks. He's pretty close to a Wehrmacht now, I would guess. Looks like he's maybe started up. He's queued up support elements. The infantry training coming online now for AcrossthePacific. A little bit late, but better late than never. Has picked up an AT gun as well.
God damn it!
Good thing about the 2-pounder is even though its penetration drops off and is not very effective against tanks, its Vet 1 ability is so powerful. Still kind of worthwhile getting.
Contact with the enemy! We're in it now!
Again, this is a spot where maybe the Vet 1 ability from the Humber popping up a flare would help chew through these Jaegers, put away the sweeper, getting close.
Vehicles for the coming fight.
Could be big. And, you know, a good time for maybe a second sapper. More sweepers, more repairs. Here comes the second Shrek. Uh-oh. Ooh, gets out of there just before it fires. Really good reaction times. Do have a bit of early warning, though, with the Humber. It does have quite good line of sight. Maybe saw that coming.
Enemy rifle! They're having a go! Enemy in range!
2-pounder
Got the
anti-tank
radar on
rounds
this now,
available.
pedestrian.
Infantry closing on us! He's dead!
Still got huge amounts of munitions for AcrossthePacific. Should be popping off sharpshooters left, right, and centre.
Enemy fire! It's target
He's getting chewed up by that 221 over here.
infantry engaged!
You can see the Australians now doing much better against the Jaegers with that training upgrade. 221 might have seen that coming on the radar a bit as well.
Good on you, mate! We've
So tech coming in now for AcrossthePacific.
Victory point under enemy control.
Still got a massive manpower surplus, as I said, needs a second sapper.
Victory point is in
So he's gone
enemy
for
hands.
vehicle over repair, so now that Humber's got the extra health.
The beggars are
And
threatening
here
a
comes the
victory point.
Wehrmacht. Still only the one AT gun right now for AcrossthePacific, and because he's only had one sapper, he hasn't planted any mines down.
Victory point
You know, as I always say, when you're playing these strats where you have no snares,
The
you
beggars are
do
threatening
really
a
need to make up for that by planting a few more mines. And he has not managed to accomplish that so far. And here comes the Wehrmacht. Humber should be able to survive this.
We must counterattack.
Fast enough to drive away. Picking up a second AT gun now. I think
Aren't making it back to HQ.
at this stage you probably want to go for a 6-pounder instead of another 2-pounder. Just, you know, the 2-pounder, you kind of want one of them to get the Vet 1. And then you want the, like, the raw damage of the 6-pounder after that. That's not a huge problem. Just means as well, like with the 2-pounder, if it doesn't have Vet 1, it's just not that effective
Territory
against
sector lost, Commander.
some of the heavier options. And speaking of the 2-pounder, it's in trouble here straight away.
Light AT gun isn't crude
Rebel
anymore.
finds it, decrews it. Second 2-pounder coming in, but there's a lot of like weird sight blocker action coming around
You have
in this
3
area of the
command
map,
points available.
making life difficult.
The Bosch are pushing hard. They're
Some
down
good
to
shots on the
200
Wehrmacht.
points.
Ooh, gets away, bit of a close call. So far, I don't think we've seen a single use of the flares from AcrossthePacific on the Humber.
They're having a
It's something you really need to use. It just turns up the DPS
infantry closing on us!
on the infantry. Makes it, you know, very easy to force these units away much more rapidly. And maybe pedestrian missing a chance to kill this off with the Shrek while it's been decrewed. Over repair though, keeping the Humber alive for now. Oh boy, it's getting stuck on the flag a bit. Surviving. Sharpshooter, sharpshooter, sharpshooter. Ooh, that could have been a squad wipe. Crusader in the build here now. AT gun still up for grabs, able to recrew it. But the VP situation looking dire for across the Pacific. When you got this much capping power from the Aussies, should not be under this much VP pressure. I think we've seen quite a few occasions where the 221 operating on the top side of the map has just been shutting down the Aussies from capping any of this. Every time he's been pushing out the side, the 221's been tearing them to shreds. And it's a big map, so it can be hard to cover this kind of angle with AT guns. So it's one of those situations where you might have to expect the 221 to be there, send your Humber out to clear the path, and then do some back capping with infantry.
We're losing a munitions point.
Here we go, Crusaders on the field, chipping away at the Grenadiers. Marder popping out for pedestrian. You know, he's gone for breakthrough, so the Tiger
Buckle up, gents. We're down to
is on the horizon eventually, can just spam units out of Luftwaffe company,
Territory's exposed out there. Lines been cut.
and that can be hard to keep up with.
Enemy fire! Crusader on the hook!
Did not put over repair on the Crusader before it came into service, and this is again maybe where the single sapper getting overworked, now having to repair up 2 vehicles, do mine sweeping, plant mines. It's just too much for one engineer to handle alone. And maybe pedestrian getting some intel from that 221 radar, making it easy to detect the location of the double 2-pounders. Oh, really good use of the sight main gun.
Knocked out.
Bit of a lucky break there, knocks out the Crusader at max range.
50 points.
And that is a massive blow for across the Pacific because he's been denied so much fuel. He's not had control of his fuel for a very long time. Doesn't have enough to rebuild the Crusader with.
Sectors in enemy hands.
Could, at this stage, consider withdrawing the Humber and using those resources to make another Crusader. And that's doubly true right now with the Crusader. I mean, with the Humber on like almost no health. Good time to withdraw it. Oh boy, using the AT gun to try capture. Desperate on the VPs, 15 points remaining, but getting caught out. There's all these sight blockers over here. Wehrmacht can't be found by the AT guns. And now the 2-pounder can be stolen by pedestrian. Got Grenadiers there to merge into it as well after the steal.
Maintain distance! Infantry!
Commander, we have a stockpile of command points available.
Hold it! Nobody moves an inch! Command! Report!
In here, fighting hard, trying to hold on to the VPs, 15 points remaining, but looking grim for across the Pacific. Did repair the Humber back up instead of withdrawing. It does have enough for a Crusader now.
Recon's a good job, mate.
Just kills it instead of stealing it. I think that's a mistake from pedestrian, but alright.
10 points.
Humber's over here doing some work. Gotta avoid getting Fausted though, if possible. Marder's rolling up. 5 points left though. Look like it's going to be lights out.
Humber armored car has been knocked out.
Rest in peace, Humber. Oh, pause. It's about to be GG. So yeah, I think for AcrossthePacific here, a little bit weak in some of these early engagements. You know, Australians just stomp grenadiers in the early game. So you need to figure out some slightly different angles to start these engagements from, maybe, because it should be a cakewalk fighting 3 Aussies up against 2 grenadiers, 2 pies. It should just be an absolute rinsing for the Wehrmacht player in the early game. Second off, need to get that second sapper earlier. You know, floating about 500 manpower for majority of this game. You know, second sapper would have made a big difference for mine planting, for repairs, for map control. Would have made such a big difference this game. Gone for the second sapper maybe after that Humber comes out, something like that, around that timing. Make a huge, huge difference in this match. More sharpshooter usage, 311 munitions. No excuse to have that when you can just sharpshoot basically every single engagement and just help swing the battles into your favor, and then they will help you convert into a lot more map control, especially if you're fighting against a unit behind cover. You can't really push that well. The sharpshooter can give you that extra zing of damage to force them away that much faster. And then when it comes to the Humber usage, it was generally fine, except for no use of that Vet 1 flare the entire game. It's another situation where, especially if there are like 2 Wehrmacht units that can be hit by the 1 flare and force the player back so much, and especially if they're on cover as well, starts, like ramping up the damage. Even when they're in cover, they're kind of like, oh, I don't want to be in the flare zone, try to like run out of cover, and then you blast them while they're running out of the flare zone, and then just kind of have to retreat anyway. Can make a big, big difference in some of these fights. So those would be the main areas of improvement. Just a few little changes there should make a big difference. But yeah, it's a tough map to cover with AT guns. This one's quite large, rotating from side to side. It takes such a long time. And maybe, the 221's radar helping a lot with avoiding the AT guns as well. But yeah, you have to consider, if I'm pushing out on this side, what's going to happen? The 221's over here. It's going to blast through my Aussies and they can't snare. So you need to have a solution ready. Either push up there alongside with one of the AT guns or have the Humber there to help with the initial push. And that'll make a big difference. As for pedestrian, going for this kind of build, this kind of greed build where he doesn't go for an extra unit in the early game, as a Wehrmacht player, it's often a death sentence for your map control. So he got out of this one a bit on the easy side. I'm a little bit surprised he didn't go for the MP40s on the Grenadiers as well, since they did get buffed. It unlocks the option for sprint into Faust, which can really help you actually catch the Humber, that extra sprint. The MP40 Grenadiers are still not that impressive, but I think on this map you can kind of get some ambushes happening around close quarters. There's a lot of sight blockers around, so you can get in close quarters without taking too much damage. So I think it's a fine upgrade. And yeah, as I said, for actually killing the Humber, the sprint into Faust is a very nice option. But apart from that, he was doing all right. Maybe could have done like the mid bunker trick where you can get the Grenadiers to help with construction by sitting down a piece of wire, and then they'll start the auto construct over here. And maybe he could also get some more units, maybe like a machine gun or two, just to help lock down some of these VPs with some team weapons, jamming things up. But other than that, pretty smooth sailing. Had the Tiger on the horizon, so I was about to completely overwhelm in this match. And there we go.
Enemies won this round.
So I hope that was all instructional and you guys can learn something from that replay. Well, anyway, guys, a wrap on that. If you like a game recast by me, details are in the video description below. Otherwise, I'll catch you all for the next thrilling installment. Goodbye and good luck.